The Kalathari were a people of light and knowledge. For thousands of years their world had been filled with science, music, and peace. They were tall, thin creatures with crystal-like skin that shimmered in the sun. They built floating cities above oceans, and their skies were filled with ships that glided without sound. But all their beauty and wisdom could not stop the horror that came from the dark edges of the galaxy. The enemy was called the Draxan Swarm. They were not builders, not thinkers, not lovers of peace. They were conquerors who spread like a sickness. Their ships were black and sharp, moving in groups that looked like storms of blades. They did not speak of peace, nor did they understand mercy. Wherever they went, they consumed. They destroyed cities, enslaved populations, and burned forests until nothing remained but ash. For the Kalathari, war was something they had read about in old records, something that belonged to primitive ages. They had never fought in true battles, never held weapons with blood on them. Their strength was in creating, not destroying. That weakness now left them helpless. Their shields fell one by one. Their cities burned under the endless strikes of the swarm. In their desperation, the Kalathari did something they had never done before. They sent out a distress signal. It was simple, only 3 words. Send us help. That signal left their home system and traveled across stars, crossing the emptiness between worlds. They did not know who would hear it. They only knew that if no one answered, their entire race would vanish. Days passed, then weeks. Hope began to die. The few remaining leaders of the Kalathari Council gathered in a crystal tower above the smoking ruins of their capital. The tower trembled with every distant strike of the Draxan weapons. "We must prepare for the end," said Elder Nivara, her voice weak but calm. "Perhaps we should accept that this is the natural way of the universe. The weak fall, the strong rise." Her words broke the silence of the council. Some nodded with hopeless eyes. Others shook their heads, refusing to give in. But then, one young scientist ran into the chamber, his crystal skin glowing with excitement. "The signal," he cried. Someone answered. The council turned toward him as if he carried a miracle. "Who?" Elder Nivara asked, her voice trembling. The scientist pulled up a hologram. The image flickered, showing a message written in rough, simple words. "We heard you. We are coming. Earth." Confusion filled the room. None of the council members had spoken that name in years. Earth was a small, young world on the edge of the spiral arm. A world of strange, short-lived beings called humans. Most records spoke of them as unpredictable, too aggressive, too unstable to ever join the greater community of stars. Other species whispered of their violent history. Wars that had burned continents, weapons that could shatter worlds. "Humans?" Elder Nivara whispered. "They will come here?" The young scientist nodded. "Yes, their fleet is already moving. They said they will arrive in less than 3 weeks. The council fell into uneasy silence. Some looked relieved. Others looked horrified. "They are dangerous," one elder muttered. "I have read the reports. They fight each other more than any other species. They do not fear death the way others do. They enjoy war. And yet," Elder Nivara said softly, "they are the only ones who answered." The days that followed were filled with whispers among the people. Some prayed for salvation. Others feared the kind of saviors that were coming. The Kalathari had always seen themselves as advanced, as enlightened. But the humans, what little they knew, were survivors, not saints. The Draxan did not wait for help to arrive. Their attacks grew heavier. One by one, the outer colonies of the Kalathari fell. Refugees crowded into the remaining cities, their crystal bodies dull with fear. Mothers held their children close. Scientists burned records so the swarm would not steal their knowledge. Still, the signal from Earth gave them a thread of hope. Across the cities, people whispered, "The humans are coming." 3 weeks later, the sky changed. The Kalathari gathered in the remains of their capital, looking upward. The sky was full of Draxan warships, black as night, circling like vultures. But now new shapes appeared, fast, sharp, metallic. They came out of faster-than-light travel with thunder in their engines. The humans had arrived. At first, the Kalathari did not understand what they were seeing. The human fleet was not large. It was not endless like the swarm's armada. Yet there was something different about it. The ships looked rough, scarred, as if they had seen hundreds of battles and survived them all. Their shapes were not graceful but strong. Every edge spoke of purpose. Every cannon was pointed outward with silent threat. Then a message came through the Kalathari channels. It was a human voice, deep and steady. This is Commander Holt of Earth. We received your call. We know your enemy. Stand firm, we're here now. The Kalethari listened, frozen between fear and hope. They had asked for help, and now it had come. But even as relief spread through their people, a darker thought whispered in the hearts of the council. They had not called upon saints. They had called upon the most dangerous species alive, and the universe would soon learn what it meant when humans answered a cry for help. The human fleet did not arrive quietly. The moment their ships came out of faster-than-light travel, the Draxan swarm turned their weapons toward them. Red energy blasts streaked through the void, cutting across the black of space. But the human ships did not retreat. They moved forward with sharp precision, answering the attack with a wall of fire. The Kalethari stood on high platforms in their capital city, watching the sky light up with explosions. They had never seen war like this. To them, space battles had always been something written in history or studied in theory. Now it unfolded above their heads with terrifying beauty. The human ships were fewer in number, yet every shot they fired seemed to hit with purpose. Where the Draxan wasted energy in massive waves of destruction, the humans struck at weak points. A single, well-placed torpedo cracked the armor of a Draxan cruiser, and within seconds the whole vessel exploded. The Kalethari whispered in awe, wondering how such a small fleet could fight so fiercely. Soon a message reached the Kalethari Council. A request, permission to land. Elder Navara and the other leaders hesitated. What if they are worse than the swarm? One whispered. What if they save us only to enslave us? But Navara shook her head. They answered when no one else did. We must meet them. Moments later, the humans descended. Their landing ships cut through the clouds and settled on the broken landing pads of the Kalethari capital. The ramps opened and out they came. Not delicate scientists, not merchants of peace, but warriors. Their boots struck the ground with heavy force. They wore armor scarred from battles past, each plate showing stories of survival. Their faces were hard, their eyes sharp as if they had seen too much darkness and yet walked through it stronger. The Kalethari gathered in silence, staring at the newcomers. They expected savages, perhaps wild brutes, but what they saw was something stranger. Men and women who carried themselves with calm control, yet whose very presence felt dangerous. At the front of the group was Commander Holt. His hair was streaked with gray, his jaw set like stone. He moved with the certainty of one who had led countless battles. Behind him came specialists, soldiers, engineers, medics, and others whose skills were hidden behind stern faces. Elder Navara stepped forward, her crystal skin glowing faintly. She tried to greet them with dignity, though her voice trembled. We are honored you came. You must understand, we are not warriors. We do not know how to fight this enemy. Commander Holt studied her, his eyes steady. Then he spoke, his voice low but firm. That's why we're here. You build, we fight. That's the deal. The Kalethari Council exchanged uneasy glances. Holt's words were simple, but they carried weight. These humans were not here for glory or conquest. They were here for the fight. That night, the humans began their work. They walked through the ruined streets, studying the broken towers, the shattered defense cannons. Where the Kalethari saw hopeless wreckage, the humans saw opportunity. Engineers pulled wires from the rubble, testing their strength. Soldiers inspected the mining lasers that had once been used peacefully to cut crystal for city building. Within hours, the humans had turned those lasers into weapons, massive cannons pointed at the skies. The Kalethari gasped as the beams fired for the first time, striking a Draxan ship cleanly in half. Everything is a weapon, one human engineer explained with a grin. You just have to know how to use it. The Kalethari began to realize how different these beings were. Where they hesitated, humans acted. Where they feared, humans found solutions. But the true shock came the next day. The Draxan launched a heavy attack, sending swarms of ground troops through the streets of the capital. They were monstrous creatures armored in black shells, carrying blades that dripped with venom. The Kalethari ran, terrified, but the humans did not retreat. They moved forward, meeting the enemy head-on. The battle that followed was like nothing the Kalethari had ever seen. Humans fought with a fury that defied reason. In close combat, they became storms of motion, knives flashing, rifles firing, fists striking with deadly force. They did not fight with elegance, but with raw will. Every fallen comrade seemed to ignite them further. They fought not to survive, but to win. The Kalethari watched from hiding places, their crystal skin trembling with fear and awe. They could not understand it. These humans laughed in the middle of combat, shouting to each other as if battle was a game. When one soldier tackled a Draxon twice his size, his teammates cheered before finishing the fight. It was terrifying. It was inspiring. By the time the battle ended, the streets were filled with the bodies of the Draxon. The humans stood victorious, breathing hard but still smiling. Commander Holt raised his weapon and signaled to the sky. "Clear," he said simply. The Calathari emerged slowly, their eyes wide. Elder Navarra stepped toward Holt. Her voice was weak, almost fearful. How do you fight like that?" "You were outnumbered. You should have been crushed." Holt looked at her, then at his soldiers. His reply was calm, almost casual. "We've been outnumbered before. Didn't stop us then. Won't stop us now." That night, the Calathari could not sleep. They whispered to each other in the glow of crystal lamps. Some felt hope for the first time in months. Others felt dread, for they realized they had called not upon saints but upon warriors unlike any they had ever known. The humans were dangerous. That much was certain. But for the first time, the Calathari wondered if that was exactly what they needed. Because against the Draxon swarm, mercy was useless. Kindness was weakness. Only danger could answer danger, and humans were the most dangerous allies alive. The war dragged on for weeks. Each day brought new attacks from the Draxon swarm. Their fleets circled above the planet like vultures, their ground forces spread across ruined cities, and their dark weapons cut through the skies. The Calathari had almost lost hope before the humans arrived. Now for the first time they believed survival was possible. But survival came at a cost. Every battle left scars. Human soldiers fought like storms, and they won again and again. But each victory demanded blood. The Calathari, unused to death in such numbers, trembled whenever they saw the bodies of fallen humans carried away. And yet the humans never stopped. They mourned their dead with clenched jaws, then returned to the fight with sharper determination. To the Calathari, this was strange. To them, grief was a time for silence and reflection. To the humans, grief was fuel. Commander Holt walked among his people every night, speaking to them in short, firm words. "We're not done yet. The swarm bleeds. They can fall. We'll prove it tomorrow." And the soldiers believed him. One evening, the Calathari Council gathered in the Crystal Tower with Holt. The skies above burned with faint red glow from distant battles. "The swarm is endless," said Elder Navarra, her voice heavy with fear. "We are thankful for your help, Commander, but you cannot fight forever. They will return again and again until we are gone." Holt stood at the center of the chamber, his arms crossed. "You're right," he admitted. "They won't stop unless we make them stop. That means not just fighting them here, but breaking their fleet so badly they think twice before coming back." The council murmured in alarm. "Break their fleet? That is impossible. They outnumber you 20-1. Holt's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Numbers aren't everything. Fear, that's what stops wars. And tonight we're going to give them something to fear." The plan was reckless. Even the humans admitted it, but they also knew it was the only way. The Calathari homeworld had long used giant gas mines above their planet's largest ocean. The mines harvested energy from the massive, storm-filled gas pockets beneath the surface. To the Calathari, these mines were peaceful tools, sources of power. To the humans, they were weapons waiting to be unleashed. The engineers worked through the night, attaching detonators, linking circuits, and setting charges. The Calathari scientists assisted, though many trembled at what they were creating. One of them whispered, "If this fails, we will destroy ourselves." Commander Holt only replied, "Then we'll make sure it doesn't fail." The Draxon came at dawn. Their largest fleet in weeks descended upon the planet, black ships blotting out the stars. Their ground troops poured into the cities once more, shrieking in their harsh, metallic voices. The Calathari huddled in shelters, listening to the thunder above. But this time the humans did not simply defend. The human fleet rose to meet the enemy, smaller in number, but striking with precision. They lured the Draxon ships closer and closer to the ocean where the gas mines waited. The swarm, believing they had finally trapped the humans, followed eagerly. On the ground, human soldiers fought with brutal determination, buying time for the plan to unfold. Every street became a battlefield. Every ruined building became a fortress. The Calathari watched in awe as humans, outnumbered and surrounded, still held their lines. At the heart of it all, Commander Holt stood in the command center, watching the skies. His voice was steady as he gave the final order. Now. The ocean erupted. The gas mines, rigged to explode, went off in a chain reaction that shook the entire planet. Towers of fire and lightning rose into the sky. The shockwave tore through the Draxan fleet, ripping their ships apart like paper. One after another, the black cruisers cracked and burned, their pieces raining into the sea below. The Calathari looked up and gasped as the swarm, so endless, so terrifying, was torn apart in minutes. The ocean boiled with fire. The sky lit up brighter than the sun. On the ground, the remaining Draxan soldiers faltered. For the first time, they knew fear. The humans pressed forward with merciless strength, driving them back into the shadows of the forests and deserts. By nightfall, the swarm was gone. The planet was free. In the days that followed, the Calathari rebuilt their cities. The ruins still smoked, but hope returned. Children laughed again in the streets. Scientists repaired what had been broken, and always the humans were there, scarred, tired, but standing strong. They did not ask for rewards. They did not demand power. They only asked for food, shelter, and rest before the next journey. Elder Navarra met Commander Holt on the balcony of the Crystal Tower. Together they looked at the new dawn spreading across the sky. "You saved us," she said quietly, "but I must ask, why? Why risk so much for a people you do not know?" Holt turned his eyes to the horizon. His face was lined with exhaustion, yet there was strength in his voice. "Because you asked for help," he said simply. "And when someone cries for help, humans don't run away. We run toward the fire. It's who we are." Navarra studied him, her crystal skin shimmering in the light. She felt both gratitude and fear, for she understood something now. Humans were not just allies. They were storms wrapped in flesh, survivors who turned despair into fire. The universe would remember this. When the Calathari had cried for help, the humans came. And the galaxy would never forget that Earth had sent not saints, not diplomats, but the most dangerous beings alive.